getting ready for the holidays, getting through everything, trying to keep my sanity, not lose my momentum, all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get it. What are you working on specifically right now? Like when you say momentum, anything?
Yeah, so I have a webinar that I'm doing on December 3rd. So
Mhm.
trying to get the registrations up for that. And then the plan, sort of the value ladder that I'm focusing on is free webinar December 3rd that's going to lead to a paid masterclass offer. So I'm hoping to do, I might even offer 2 dates for that, like one sort of like mid-December and then one in early January,
Mhm.
with a focus on crafting your vision, getting really clear on the things you want to accomplish for 2025. And
Mhm.
then from that masterclass would be like a 3-day in-person experience where we do one day really heavily focused on vision, one day on strategy, and one day on mindset. So that's kind of my end of December, heading into January, February focus of those 3 elements.
Mhm. Is your 3-day vision like that get together? Is that with you one-on-one, or is that with a small group?
So ideally, I would like to have 5 to 10 people in that.
Yep.
So it would be more of like a high ticket offer, but it would be in person. Where everything is essentially like at a hotel. So your room is included, your meals are most of your meals are included. You just have to cover transportation to get there. But yeah, focusing on 5 to 10 people. What that if they choose to work with me beyond that in a coaching capacity, they would have a really solid foundation going into coaching. If they choose not to work with me, they at least have the foundation as well as a strategy that they can start implementing and sort of the launching pad to get them going with whatever they're working on.
Yeah, they'd have a huge kickstart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Well, this is interesting because hopefully you find what I'm kind of doing. There's some similarities in like clarity, but there's
Mm-hmm.
also some differences in the fact that basically what I found that my work has ended up being is I started filming coaches, and then I realized they had no focus whatsoever, as you've probably realized as you've started working with people. It's a very, it's an interesting dynamic because coaches tend to help people get focus. And then
Mm-hmm.
when we go to like really dial in on who they're for, they oftentimes, well, I do a lot of this and I do a little bit of this. And I developed this through funneling down myself because, I find that we try things, and, I'm being general here. Like we try things, some of those things work, some of those things don't. We like some of those things, we don't like some of those things, and then
Mm-hmm.
we refine from there. And so that practice has just happened naturally in my life to where I finally like feel super targeted on who I'm working with, and
Yeah.
kind of exactly how I can help. And basically all I did was put it into words. And so that's kind of what we're walking through today. So before
Yeah.
we do
Awesome.
anything, I want to just say how much I enjoyed our time. And even though it feels like it was 4 years ago, I walked away from that call like feeling more clear. And
Awesome.
yeah, so that was great. It was the first time in a long time like anybody's ever asked me 3 or 4 times in a row, like, okay, that's good, but let's dial it down. That's
Mm-hmm.
good, but let's dial it down. And I do that for people a lot. And but nobody ever asked the question back, so
Yeah.
like until you're asked that question, you don't get to create the answer.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
Well, good. I'm glad it helped with the clarity for sure. So
yep, thousand
glad
percent.
I was able to provide that for you, provide the access point. Right? Like that's what I say to a lot of people is like, I'm not going to give you the answer, but I'm going to give you the access point, or I'm going to lead you to the access point for you to find the answer for yourself.
Yeah, yeah, that's the deal. Um, so I'm gonna share this. So I sent you this worksheet, and it's been evolving, and um, this is my. Oh, let me see here. Oh, I guess I can't share that like that. So let me put it on a different screen.
Mhm.
And in essence, what this really is the preparation for the workshop, but this is really just a content preparation.
Mhm.
And so my work really focuses around video creation, But I've found that through all the conversations that I've had with coaches, they end up like having epiphanies and then dialing their courses in better. So
Right.
this is a training that's in the make for how to create high value content, courses, and sellable offerings. Because at the end of, like, when I do one-on-ones with people, they're like, wow, I didn't see that I had this, this stackable offering. I
Hmm.
didn't realize I could pull this apart. I didn't realize I could offer this as a template. This sounds like stuff you're already doing.
Yeah.
But oftentimes they walk away with like, wow, there's a lot more in here than I thought.
Hmm.
And so anyway, this is the core four method, and core four is just simply around 4 areas of focus that we focus on. So I'm going to read it just word for word. Focus is more important than intelligence. That's what I try to tell myself, because I think of myself more on the focused end than the intelligent end. Core four methods of content and course planning system for coaches, consultants, and public speakers. Using this process, we solve high value problems for our target clients. And we do this by, number one, identifying core problems of your target client or a market that you might be interested in serving. So if somebody comes to me and says, I'm not sure yet, I say, where do you think you want to live? 2 is exploring core solutions, either one that already exists in the market or maybe solutions that you're already offering, and seeing, if there's anything more inside of those, possibly your competition's offering. 3 is answering core questions that your target market is searching for. And this ends up being the biggest part of the content piece that we do. Um, when we're helping people create content, I find that it's really valuable to focus on the questions that you think people would like to catch you in the act of answering. And,
Hmm.
if we do this over and over again, people start to go, oh, that's the girl who, that's the guy who,
Right.
does this. And, I'm always a little bit jealous of the physical trainers, because it's super easy to see, like, if I was a weightlifting trainer, it's like, yes, I just, take videos of myself lifting, weights in proper form and improper form, but for speakers, it's a little different, because we have
Hmm.
to, we have to articulate it, we have to write it, and we have to, do that with some consistency. And then finally, as we create core offerings to solve those problems in a scalable way. So this is a process I use to identify, develop, and connect and create with specific client avatars that you can bring value to. And so the reason why we want to be specific is that once you identify the exact problems that you solve, you can get in front of a more specific audience, and then the floodgates open. And oftentimes, since we don't know each other, I feel like I've probably told you a little bit of this on our call, but I left an industry that I was considered an expert in. In fact, I just talked to my podcast partner this week from my former podcast, and it's been 3 years since I've left. They didn't post another minute of content, and that podcast got 12,000 listens in October. I mean, it's still very much, it's still very active. And that leave having the experience of leaving that and then going into something where I wasn't yet an expert in, but I was kind of had a knack for,
Hmm.
um, you know, uh, I had the experience of trying to be a generalist and realizing how much that doesn't work. And then, just how relatively easy it's been for me to get clients now that, I'm monomaniacally focused on, the type of avatar that I work with. So,
Right.
um, and this is why we always begin with exploring core problems uh, that our client is having, that when we solve it, it improves the business function and makes it measurably better of the person. So I think about a core problem as one that, I think a lot of people address all of the little thing. I hear people putting out fires a lot.
Hmm.
And so I'll take the example of a small business owner. It's like, well, how do we get our employees to show up? And it sounds like that problem is that people don't show up. But it's a much different problem, right? Like, if you look at
Right.
that systematically, if you stare at it long enough, you realize it's a leadership problem, it's a hiring problem, it's a systems problem. Um, And yet you'll hear a lot of people out there, you know, talking about, how do I know when it's time to fire somebody? It's like, if you're
Right.
asking this question,
It's time to fire
yeah.
them.
And so, and if that's the question you're always asking, then you don't have a firing problem. You have a leadership problem. So like, let's start to really look at core problems. A core problem is one that when we solve it, the landscape changes of your
Mhm.
business. And so for a financial coach, you know, uh, people talk about not buying Starbucks lattes, and it's like, well, fine, but that's really not the core problem. The core problem is like we have no system for for really having any clue of where our money goes at all.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm being general because I'm not a
Right.
financial coach. Um, so we walk through this activity, and the activity is to take a few minutes to think about our target market or target client that you're interested in creating a product or service for. You've already got that. And then we're going to make a list of the core problems that this market has. So, for example, if you're a weight loss coach, think of 5 to 10 problems that someone might have if they're new to losing weight. If you're a business coach, that focuses on a specific injury, what are some of the unique common challenges that almost everyone struggles with? These might be problems that if they're not solved, then the business will really suffer, or go out of business.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to sneak down to the columns here. Sorry, I feel like I'm just kind of racing through this, which I don't mean to do.
No, you're
Um,
fine.
so here's what we do. We make a list of the top core problems that our clients are having that are kind of screaming at them or keeping them up at night
Mhm.
that we either solve or don't solve, but we want to take a look at like what are the big core problems that they're having, and then we go back through and we go through that list and we identify, okay, why exactly are they having this problem?
Right.
So, in the example again being like, people aren't showing up. You've got this business owner. Well, let's talk about why you're having this problem. Well, people are jerks.
Mhm.
Well, people are lazy. Well, maybe, but let's really dive down to, what the why is, and then we
Mhm.
expose, those true whys. So, um, to open this up for discussion, your clients are very specifically who?
The athlete ecosystem, so the families and partners of professional athletes.
Um, and what's the problem you're solving for them?
It's a great question, Chris. So I would say that the problem is a bunch of things come up. So one of the problems is not pursuing something of their own. So they're putting their ambitions on hold to support the athlete.
Oh, so this is the ecosystem. This is the families of the support
Mhm.
system of. So
Yep.
not pursuing, putting on hold. Okay.
That's one of the problems. Another problem is um, they feel like their concerns, their issues, their problems aren't as important. So they're not addressing their concerns or issues in the relationship or whatever. And then another one is a feeling like they feel lonely and isolated
Hmm.
in the lifestyle and the challenges that they're facing.
Those are big. How does one come upon identifying this in themselves? Like, I mean, it sounds to me like this lonely isolation comes from the fact that uh, they're not being, you're not going to be seen if you're, the husband or the wife of a star athlete. You're sort of just see. So how do they even find out that they're having this?
Yeah, so I think it's the feeling of like they don't have anyone that they feel like it's a trust issue, right? Like
Hmm.
they,
Hmm.
so if they're having an issue with the relationship or if they're dealing with um, even just the overwhelm of moving regularly. It's like, who do you talk to about it? Because if you talk to the wrong person, it could get leaked to the media, and then it impacts the career, so I think that's one of the ways to identify it, is feeling like there's no one that they can actually talk to about what's bothering them. I think, again, I think the loneliness and the isolation, from everything I've heard, really does stem from moving constantly, or being in new environments. So it's just that feeling of like, not like, a feeling that you don't have a community, that you don't have like-minded people who understand what you're going through, because you're not in the same city as your family. You're in a new city because that's where he's playing, or she's playing. So I think it's that component as well, of just feeling like, I don't really have a community I can turn to.
Um, let's go. And well, and the other thing for me, like, and I think it's obvious, you kind of said it in like a couple of words, is, hey, that's, you know, I'm not super up on sports right now, so I'm going to say, like, well, hey, that's LeBron James' wife.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, that's, I in the hair industry, one of the models that we shot with one time was dating Shaq, and like, suddenly it turned from what her name was to that Shaq's girlfriend.
Right.
There was a, and obviously that goes both ways across all kinds of sports.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, then you're kind of wondering who your friends are.
Right.
How does somebody come upon you, and stumble upon you for as this liaison or trusted source?
That is the problem I'm currently dealing with. So there are team personnel who essentially provide resources, information, support on non-sport aspects to athletes and to their families. So those embedded personnel at the team level would be one avenue. The athlete's agent would be another avenue. And then I've started plugging into, like, there are some like wives associations, or wives and girlfriends associations, or groups within teams, or affiliated with teams, but they're not publicized really. So that's part of it. But like the PGA Tour Wives Association is a thing. The Off the Field Wives, I think, or Off the Field Association, is the NFL players' wives. So there are some like league-wide associations. Otherwise, it's just team. It's like the Jacksonville Jaguars Wives Association or Wives Group. So finding those groups, or finding a way to connect with those groups, and then getting in front of them to do a workshop or presenting, it's kind of where I'm heading.
Okay, I love it. So there was three main that you gave me. Obviously, not putting your life on hold. All things you. The second was they just don't feel important. They just kind of feel. And then the third is, obviously, they feel lonely and isolated in the community that they live in, or you can't trust anybody. Is there anything else that comes to mind, like as a major solution, that either a core problem that they're having, or a major solution that you want to help them solve?
Yeah. So tell me what you have for number one again.
The first one you said was they're not pursuing their life's goals. They're just putting their life's goals on hold.
Yeah. So I would say this is kind of tied to that one, but it's maybe looks a little different. But their legacy is connected to the athlete, so they don't have like an independent identity or legacy. So it's kind of, again, it sort of correlates to the other ones, but phrased a little differently. So independent legacy would be one, and this one again kind of ties into two and three, but the concern that, like, expressing their unhappiness might make them seem ungrateful. So fear of like instability in the relationship. Like, if I seem ungrateful, they might not keep me around, kind of thing. I think there's also and this might tie into that one as well, but a component of like looking the part, whatever that is, whether,
Mm,
not
mhm,
necessarily physically looking the part, but, you know, being the good wife, the good
mhm,
girlfriend, the good husband, right? So like
mhm,
playing the role, I guess, of, and and I would also say that there's another component of navigating, just navigating the various roles, right?
mhm.
Like we have enough money to pay for a nanny, but I come from a culture that if I hire a nanny, my mom or my mother-in-law is going to think that I'm
Yeah,
not a good mom.
yeah.
So just like those kinds of things that I think anybody with money has those problems or can have those problems, but a little more prominent when you're, you know, the wife of an MLB player and you don't have to work and all of a sudden you hire a nanny. It's like, we don't do that in Latin American culture. Like we don't hire nannies.
Mhm,
So
mhm, mhm. Um, just out of curiosity, and this it's not necessarily involved in this sheet, but just to help me formulate thoughts, um, wh- is what's the market space look like for what you do?
in terms of potential number of individuals or
Just the size of the amount, the uh, like I would say there's, a million, well, there's 164,000 hair salons in the United States, right? That's kind of like how how big is this niche that you're in?
well, I can find that information for you because I have it here somewhere. All right. So sorry, I don't know where it went. There we go. Okay. Okay. So there are a total of about 5,100 professional athletes,
Hmm.
and best estimate is approximately 30 to 50% have a significant other. So about 2,600 potential spouses, and that's across the men's five major sports, as well as women's professional soccer, WNBA, and professional women's hockey. Um, and women's sports, obviously, there are more expansion teams happening, so there's going to be more happening in that space. But approximately 2,600 significant others, and then
Hmm.
that doesn't even factor in, parents and siblings. So I would say probably up to potentially up to like 5,000
Hmm.
individuals who could be,
Hmm.
and
Um,
like I guess so. That's kind of the primary market. The secondary market would be the staff at the teams that
mhm,
might be
mhm.
interested in resources that I can provide that they would then provide to their, wives and girlfriends. So that's again like anywhere from 1 to 5 people at the 200, no, 30 times 5 is what I don't even know. Yeah, so quite a few.
So I ask, and how many people do you know that are doing sort of the thing that you're doing?
So none.
Okay.
At least not on a very large level. So the teams, especially in the NFL, like they're starting to do some stuff, but their family support tends to be more logistics, relocation, tickets for game day,
Yeah.
parking. Um, if there are challenges within the marriage, the player might ask for guidance or advice. So they might be referring them to like a marriage counselor or that kind of thing. But as far as I know, and from everyone I've talked to, there's nobody who is clearly focused on coaching and support services exclusively for the people surrounding the athlete.
I mean, this could also expand. I'm just thinking out loud. This could also expand to famous people.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
it could expand to famous people. It could expand to NASCAR. It could expand
right,
to professional golf. It could expand to high-powered attorneys,
right. So you're
politicians.
specifically focused on the NFL right now?
No, professional sports, but
Okay.
I'm kind of focused more on like the pro leagues just because I know
Yeah.
I've done research in that space through my grad program. So like I just know that area better.
Yeah.
I know what's currently being done and the gap.
And the gap. Yeah. Um, I like it. Identify the gap for me. I'm just curious.
Yeah, so the way that, especially for the professional leagues, everything that is done at the team level is mandated by the collective bargaining agreements. So there is embedded support at every team because the collective bargaining agreement says that it has to be. But the gap is, if we think about the NFL, just because it's the one that I was on a webinar with them last night. They're up to 70 players on a roster. If you include injured reserve, if you include practice squad, all that kind of stuff, and you have maybe 2 people at the team. And so if you think about 70 players, even if only 50 of them have a significant other or a family member, and there are 2 people on the team, those 2 people on the team, their first priority is always going to be the player. So the gap is they just don't have the manpower and the hours to support everyone else in the ecosystem. And they don't have, in many cases, they don't have the breadth of knowledge and information that I bring with entrepreneurship background, network outside of sport, resources, information. So I would say that that's the biggest gap, is just that there's a huge market of potential people to serve, very few people who can serve them across multiple layers of their life.
Okay, one final question, and I know that you know this answer off the top of your head, is just how many people do you need to be serving in order to fill your cup?
I would love to have, like, my ideal client roster would be 10 one-to-one clients. And then I would love to also do like speaking engagements, workshops, so like a one-to-many angle as well.
And what would your speaking engagements look like? Like, who would they be in front of? Would they be in front of it? Would the team kind of put together a thing for the, family?
Yeah, so that's one model, is having a team sponsored workshop for sure. And that would be, focused on one specific area, most likely. So it could be whatever the topic area is. So, but interactive kind of, you obviously got a taste of what my workshops are like. I'm in Sarasota. So that's more my style, is interactive, giving information without just being a talking head at the front of the room.
Sure.
So that's one model. It will be either the team sponsoring it or being brought in by like the Wives and Girlfriends Association, the mothers of the players associations, that kind of thing, or the players associations themselves, because the leagues and the players associations are separate entities. So players association tends to focus more on retired players. So that's another aspect as well, is those different models.
And so your transformation in those speaking events would be focused on, them kind of, also living an independent, fulfilled life, along inside of this ecosystem.
Yeah, independent, fulfilled life, gaining the confidence to even just express what they're challenged with, and to begin looking at opportunities to close the gap, right? Like, what's the vision that they want to create? What's their current reality? And then what's the gap that they need to close?
Yeah. And I mean that, I think the reality is, I'm going to move on here, and I'm probably telling you what you already know, but I mean, the reality is like, when you are attached to somebody that has some notoriety, it does, it offers a platform. And, I always think about the commercial with, there's the quarterback. It might be Matt Talbot, but it might not be.
I'm not familiar.
Maybe he's not even a quarterback. Yep. Anyway, there's a quarterback. His wife has a podcast. They're on a commercial, and in essence, the issues that she talks about. I don't know the podcast well. I've just seen the commercials on it. It's like, these are things that he couldn't talk about, and she wouldn't have had the springboard had they not been married. So they can kill a lot of, they can cover a lot of ground together if they work together in that kind of legacy format.
Yep.
So, anyway, all right, moving on. This is good stuff, by the way. So anyway, what you might do is, take that worksheet, maybe you've already done it, and really dial in on more of those problems. And it'll make sense as to why, as we reflect on these, We prioritize the top 5 for our next activity. You know, I'm always asking myself, are these challenges I want to solve? You know, I think as you get more wanted and needed, people will ask you to do more stuff.
Mhm.
And, you know, if you've ever made the mistake of saying yes to too many things, you know, or things that are outside, you know, you end up starting to build a book of work that you don't want to be doing. So
Mhm.
we're always focused on, are they problems I want to solve? Are they problems that I can solve? And then if I solve this problem, does it make a measurable difference in the market or in the client? So that's where we go. In every industry, some businesses struggle while others thrive. In your case, there might not be anybody else out there doing this. So, you know, this
Mhm.
could be a blue ocean for you. A key factor that sets top performers apart is how effectively they solve their clients' core problems. When a core problem exists, we are actively searching for solutions, and often there are already options out there. By examining existing solutions, including those you may already offer, we can find inspiration to develop fresh, innovative approach, and not only stand out, but have the potential to revolutionize the market, which yours, you know, sounds like there's a possibility there.
Yeah.
So from a solution perspective, it sounds like a couple of the things that you've said already, where the team provides some kind of support.
Mhm.
How much that is questionable.
Right.
And then what else is out? You know, there's some organizations. Um,
Yeah, there are some associations that are going to provide like word of mouth resources and referrals, which might be like if the spouse of an athlete wants to start a business, then they might get referred to like a business coach, right? So there are obviously coaches in each category. There's you can find a business coach, you can find a therapist, you can find an executive coach if you just, want to cover it all. I don't know. Like you can find um lifestyle services. So if you needed to hire household help, you can find somebody to do that, right? So there are sort of like segmented professionals in each of those areas. I think I'm the only one who brings all of that under one umbrella to say whatever your challenge is, whether it's career, relationship, communication skills, lifestyle, like if I can't solve it for you, I have someone in my network who understands the athlete lifestyle who can help you with that, or the high net worth lifestyle or whatever it is.
okay, so let's get specific for just a minute.
Mhm.
So barring the general stuff that's out there aside, give me solution number one, like not like career, but but um, what does that mean? What are you going to give that person, that transformation that's like, I'm just kind of floating along here.
Yeah. So what I give them is this is gonna sound a little wishy washy, and I know you'll help
Yeah,
me narrow it down.
no, it's okay. We're
But
just talking.
freedom and permission to want what they want beyond the lifestyle that they currently have. Like so, freedom and permission to want more in whatever that looks like for them.
And how does that change what they're currently at? So now I've got freedom and permission to want what I want. What happens next for people when they have this aha or this transformation?
I would say it gives them clarity on they want to ask for. I'm actually like thinking of the exercise that I gave at the event. Like it's the requests, like requests of myself, requests of others. Like what now that you know what you want, you know what to ask for, right? It's like going to a restaurant and they don't give you a menu, but they say, "What do you want?" You're like, I don't know, like what's available to me." But as soon as you get the menu and you take a look at it, now you're like, "Oh, I want chicken parmesan, not you know beef with broccoli." That'd be a weird restaurant, but you get where I'm going with it. Um, So yeah, clarity around what they want, and then support in going after it.
Okay. In the relationship aspect, what would they, what's the transformation that that you would hope that they could expect, or what does that support look like from a solution standpoint? So you know um, you're a supporting cast, you're in the athletes ecosystem. They're just due to their job, they're gone a lot, they're in the spotlight a lot. You're experiencing this self identity crisis, perhaps loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
Who do I trust? Building relationships when I'm on the move all the time. um, what's the transformation that can happen in our relationship when I get this empowerment?
So when you say transformation in our relationship, are you meaning like athlete and spouse relationship?
Well, you kind of pointed to career, relationships,
Mhm.
lifestyle. So you tell me.
Yeah. So relationships, in that sense, I would say it's, yes, mostly the intimate relationship between the athlete and the individual. In intimate, it could be, parent, it could be sibling. So maybe
Sure.
not romantically intimate, but
Yeah.
um so I would say that the transformation they would receive is, it comes back to clarity, but clarity and confidence. Confidence in what's not working, what they want to fix. Um, or maybe that's clarity in what's not working, what they want to fix. Confidence in like how to ask for it, I guess. How to ask for what they need.
Mhm.
What else? What other transformation? Even just getting clarity around what they want the relationship to look like. So better awareness. Yeah.
Mhm. So, so now let's talk about solutions that we so these are the kind of areas of, so what are the ways we size those solutions up for them? So, obviously there was the one-on-one, you talked about the group speaks, but how about that person who's all in?
Yeah. So all in, I would say that it would be, I guess, like I call it ripple effect transformation, right? Like they might be
Mhm.
all in on, I want to build a business. And in order to build a business, we dig into like, okay, you're going to have more support in managing your lifestyle. You're going to need to have healthier boundaries with various people. You're going to have to improve your leadership and your communication skills. And those things all have a ripple effect into other areas of your life.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that
So it
answers the question
is
though.
the kind of so is the offering pretty much, does it sort of start and stop with one-on-one coaching?
Um, it doesn't have to.
Mhm.
I enjoy that because I
Mhm.
think there's like a depth of relationship that's established that, being able to say to somebody 6 months in, like, hey, remember how you said X 3 months ago?
Mhm.
Like, I'm not going to be able to do that with somebody just in a workshop environment.
Sure.
But um, yeah, what is, tell me more about what you mean by start and stop with the one on one.
Well, I'm just looking in this aspect, we're just really looking at what types of offerings, that we can have around doing this. And it may very well just be it may very well be like, yeah, I work, I work as a coach. I don't have an offering that's a template or but you could have an offering that's a community, you
Hmm.
know. You,
Yeah, so a couple things that I guess I can just brain dump all the ideas I've had now.
Yeah.
So yes, one-to-one coaching would be like the high level. They're serious about it. They're all in. Like, yes, it's a one-on-one coaching offer. Um, and then other things that I have looked at are like either on-demand webinars for like short form content. So like lifestyle support, right? It would be, hey, you've just entered into this lifestyle where you are making a lot of money. You now have a big house. How do you manage a big house? I have a background in household management. So it's like, these are the top 5 things you need to be considering um, to support your lifestyle, right? Types of people you should be hiring, how to find those people, how to write job descriptions, things that you need to be considering as you're doing this. Getting background checks performed, who should be doing those kinds of things, like that kind of stuff. So that's one that would be either like a webinar or like a course. So that could even be like drip fed content of, or maybe it's all available, right? It doesn't have to be drip fed, but it could be they buy the course and they have access to 5 modules on managing the athlete lifestyle. And then the other thing that I've thought about is this is more like membership concept, but it sort of starts with access to a resource library. So resource and vendor database essentially. Where if it's like, hey, I need to hire staff, or I need a divorce attorney, or whatever. It's like they know that they can go to this resource library. These are vetted resources who work with athletes in various sports. People that I've built relationships with over the years, and they have access to those people, those individuals. So that's one concept that kind of could develop into a community concept, but I hadn't really thought more about the community piece necessarily.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about the community piece because of those trusted, that sort of trusted inner circle that they really may not have, just due to the fact of their athletes are famous at different levels, so it might not, they might not be famous. They might just be gone all the time,
Right.
you know.
Yep.
But then, then you've got the ones like you said. I mean, I can't imagine what it, would feel like to be the wife of a, either or of a star person. And, everywhere you go, you got cameras flashing, you got people sizing you up. You said, look the part. But you're right. Look the part, because, oh, wow. Well, if that's all
Yeah.
my competition is, I'm going to try to meet up with them at the bar,
Yeah, and I like the other thing is like it does go both ways, because I've talked to men who are the husbands of female athletes and they deal with a lot of the same challenges. I've even had
1,000%.
athletes say like being an athlete is selfish. Like everything is about you and your performance. So it's like, oh, this is a recovery day, so this is what I'm focusing on, but I still have to go prioritize my training, my recovery, my health, my fitness over pretty much anything else. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would never do it. I would never do Yeah, no, 1,000%. So I think that's something more interesting, interesting to explore. I mean, you could even put together an association, on your own, with your trusted vendors and have some kind of an affiliate. Maybe there's a show that happens once a year, around, a major event like a draft or something like that, where people are going to be there and maybe there's a seminar or workshop that's happening, down the hall in the other room when they have those types of things. And it's something for the family members to do. So that's there could be something there, especially with an affiliation, because now you're all, now it's not just you, out
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah, and I actually have talked about that with one of my colleagues, like putting together, we called it the Athlete and Spouse Summit, but it would essentially be the off season, like held during the off season for every sport, not team, every sport. And it would be like a hybrid marriage retreat professional development seminar with, vendors and service providers and stuff who can be there to either hawk their goods and wares or educate or, that kind of thing. So like there could be an estate planning segment. There could be a lifestyle consulting. There could be a coaching segment, so that kind of stuff. But yeah, bringing it all under one roof was definitely something that we've talked about.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting thing. I think my camera battery died. I'm gonna switch it because it's definitely locked up.
I was like, you are definitely frozen, but I can still hear you. So
This is gonna take me 1 second.
no problem. Actually, I'm going to pause and run to the restroom really fast. I will be right back.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Of course, the bathroom's like out and around the corner, so apologies.
There we go. No worries at all. So to kind of wrap up the thought pattern here is a couple of things. One, that I think about, when you're thinking about offerings, it's like, is it a course? Is it coaching? Is it physical products? Is it a resource? And it could be anything from a template that could be, tap into a community of people that you're involved with. It could be a software as a service. Maybe you get down the road and you're helping people to manage daily tasks or goal setting, and you create some kind of a software that they would use specifically around your brand. And so we like to get granular around, okay, we've got this solution. here's the solution that I want to offer, and here's very specifically how I want to offer it.
Mhm.
And most time coaches start with coaching because it's what we know how to do. I consider myself more of a consultant because I tell more than I do ask. But when I'm working with people, but um, as you move down the line, if you just stay in coaching, the struggle with that is then it always depends on you.
Right.
Unless you grow a team, and that's obviously a different thing.
So you
And
said,
so
just to make sure I got that clear, you said there's like you identify the solution to the problem, and then what I personally want to offer is the solution, and then how I want to offer it.
that's right.
Got it. Okay.
Um, and then it helps to know, am I solving their problem? And so uh, the difference between liposuction and going to the gym for a year, right? In
Right.
a personal trainer helps you, supports you, teaches you how to solve your problem. Liposuction solves the problem, right? Of whatever it is you're doing. It obviously doesn't solve the health problem. And so am I physically solving their problem? Am I teaching them how to solve a problem? Do I sell them? Is it a physical product that solves their problem? Do I help them achieve an important goal or get better at a skill? And then do I save them time, money, effort, energy, pain,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is? And so, yeah.
So it's like I appreciate this because I just had a possible light bulb moment. Like I was talking about, they're the embedded personnel at the teams, and clearly with 5,000 people, I'm never going to be able to serve all of them. But I'm almost thinking like uh, a workbook, almost like a train the trainer kind of concept of like, hey, I'm going to teach you how to facilitate these different tools that I use so that you can use them with the players. Because as I always say, like if the entire ecosystem is thriving, the athlete is going to do better.
Mhm.
But the tools, it's great to give a tool to one person in a relationship. If the other person in the relationship has no clue what the hell you're talking about,
Yeah.
it's not going to work. So I'm almost seeing like again, secondary market, but an opportunity to train player engagement, player development people at the teams, like use these tools with your players. If I'm using them with their spouses, they can go home and use them together to strengthen their relationship and enhance performance.
Oh yeah. I mean, in the end, like what I'm really seeing is, look, we've all been the person that went to a thing, got some education, got super inspired, came back only to be met with resistance at home, or they don't know what you're talking about, and the, like what I'm seeing is like a retreat, where at the end of the season, at the end of the year, where you've got not only the spouses or the support system, but the players, and you've got multi different offerings for all of them. Because uh, if one of them's experiencing growth and the other one, isn't in on it, then that can often, then they can continue to not feel supported. Like, oh, great, hon,
Mm-hmm.
go do whatever it is you have to do to feel good. Like, that's awesome. I support you. But if they're in the know with each other, that could be even cooler. And it doesn't mean that the person has to give all that time, but like, you could have a really cool, like, you know, athlete ecosystem, call it whatever you're going to retreat at the end of the year where, 25, of these people come, with their family, with their,
Mm-hmm.
and, maybe there's yoga that's happening. Maybe I mean, I don't know, I'm just like being
No,
arbitrary.
that was absolutely what we were talking about doing for that summit, was like part marriage retreat, part like giving the relationship these tools. So it's like for the first day, it was everyone's in the same room, they're all getting the same content, the
Mhm.
same
Yep.
information, going through the same exercises together, or like breaking out and whatever. And then day two was more professional development. So it's like, hey, if he's interested in learning about franchise opportunities and she's interested
1,000%.
in learning about how to manage the home,
Yeah.
right? Like depending on their areas of focus. And then I think day 3 was like a half day of, again, bringing everyone back together. What are the things you learned? How are you going to, like, what's your plan from here? So how do you keep the momentum that you've gained during this weekend to make sure that you accomplish the things you say you want to accomplish and,
Mhm.
get where you want to go. So,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely that concept. It was just on a, league by league scale. So, but definitely the same concept of like the entire family needs these tools. Otherwise it's like trying to, build a house with one arm tied behind your back.
Mhm. Mhm. 1,000%. So anyway, there's a lot in there, and I think, as you move along, keep revisiting, what is this product offering, and can I scale it? The thing that
Hmm.
I'm always afraid of with coaches is their inability to scale past themselves.
Right.
And I only know it because I've had it. Like a few years ago in my old career, I found myself sitting on Zooms all day long, and I was like, I love this every now and again, like what we're doing now, having this discussion. But this was my life. I was like, this is the worst life of all time. I mean, I can't think of anything worse than this.
Yeah.
And I was legit helping people, but you know, this lifestyle wasn't the right scalable fit. So, long term, you want to start to work those, the more solutions that you have and the more different ways, the better. And so, anyway, core questions.
Hmm.
How are you on time, by the way? Because we're going a little long here. What's your
I can
mark?
go until 12:30. I have to leave for a
Okay.
1 o'clock
Okay.
appointment, but yeah,
Okay.
I have
Yeah, we
time.
we won't. So anyway, core questions is the next deal. And this is once you've pinpointed core problems that your target client faces and clarified how you solve them, you can start to craft a powerful content strategy. And for you, a content strategy doesn't necessarily mean that you need to make a lot of video. This is the way your message speaks and like how you're going to grab people.
Hmm.
And so we do this by exploring the consistent questions or complaints or pains that your target market is expressing. What those are, what are those very common pain points that they need or want help solving? These are often the most frequently asked questions that you get because they have not found a solution that works for them. We call these core questions because having answers to these questions will help them solve core problems, which solves a lot of shit
Hmm.
that they're struggling with. So the activity, we do this in two parts. And what we do is we create a list of frequently asked questions that somebody who's brand new to this environment or ecosystem. So, my husband or wife just got drafted. I'm now in this, you know, box that I was never in before. We just used to, you know, we were
Hmm.
just doing our thing before. How do I do this life?
Right.
What do I need to know? What do I need to look out for? I'm sure there's like a lot of things to look out for.
Hmm.
Scams that people try to run on these families and, just different things, people getting close. I mean, I don't know if that's on your wheelhouse or not, but I'm sure it's there.
Yeah, I would
Um,
say that's more like that would be more of a like teams or leagues are
teams.
going to
Yeah.
provide those resources. Not to say that I couldn't, but I would say that the list for beginners would be more of like the what do I need to look out for, not externally, but more internally,
Hmm.
like in
Hmm.
my own camp, in my own brain, in my own, heart, mindset, all that kind of stuff. Like, don't lose yourself to what he's doing. Like that kind of thing would be my
Okay. Yeah.
that would be my wheelhouse more so than the other pieces.
Right. I love it. So the second list we create is what should they be asking? And
Mhm.
so we use these two lists, and the, I like to create a list of anywhere from 25 to 50, but for the sake of a smaller worksheet, we did 10. And basically it's just, brainstorming the questions, because when you can answer a question, whether it's with your collateral material, whether it's with a video that they stumble upon, whether it's with I don't know how you get the offerings that you make in the hands of the people that you need to connect with. But when you can land on a question that they've been asking in their brain, wait a minute, like, is she inside my head? How does she know? And
Right.
then I need to work with her, I need to work with her. And so we create these questions. I'll come back up here now. These questions will serve as a foundation for video topics, compelling quotes, social media posts, newsletters, marketing collateral, any and all of it. We want to I always say, get caught in the act of answering important questions to your target client. And
Mm.
when you do that time and time and time again, um, they you know what happens. You start to become the known expert. And so as you develop these lists, you want to consider the following things. What do my clients need to know to achieve success in this area? What are the obstacles that are holding them back? What are the specific challenges that they're facing? So, you have a very specific group of people. It's quite interesting,
Mhm.
because, you know, I think everybody feels loneliness, but the experience of the loneliness behind the gilded stage is, apparently different.
Yeah.
Um, and then, um, what questions or concerns are keeping them up at night? And so we want to find ourselves again getting caught in the act of saying these things out loud so people understand it. And so this strategic uh, approach will ensure your content resonates with your audience needs and establishes you as the go-to expert in your niche. So we create those 4 questions, and at our workshop, this is basically what we do: is we go through this experience, and then we use this list of we do 15 questions each. And so we use this list of 60 questions to do multiple interviews
Mm.
in different scenarios. So it looks like, wow, this person's everywhere answering, and, it gives you a real focused topic list. So these are
Yeah.
really good to do for your talking points. And, you know, what are some, other FAQs that,
Um, so I would say, like, the question would be like, how do I balance or pursue what I want while also being a good spouse, being a good partner? Um,
okay, so I'm going to ask you that question. How do I balance and and be a good spouse or support person, and pursue what I want in the meantime?
um, so that's a great question, Chris. I'm so glad you asked. It starts with having a clear vision of what you want it to look like. What do you want your relationship to look like with your spouse? What do you want your pursuit of your passion to look like? And once you're clear on what that vision is, you can identify your current reality. So what's currently happening, what is the real honest truth about today's situation? And that gives you the gap. Current reality compared to where you want to be. Now you have a gap, and you can look at creating strategies that help close that gap. So it could be solutions that might come up could be hiring support to help you have more time in your schedule to pursue what you want, and then also be present when your spouse is available and needing your support. Um, it could be identifying times during the year that are better for you to focus on your passions versus supporting the athlete. So those are just a couple things that come to mind immediately, but those would be some ways to balance it, is looking at different strategies and looking at your lifestyle, because you are the expert in your life. I'm not, but you have the resources and the information within you. You probably just haven't been asked the right questions or tapped into it yet.
Mhm. Um, when you say, what do I want my life to look like? What do I want it to look like? Answer that more personally.
Okay.
Like if you're talking to an individual,
Yeah. So honestly, I mean, when I ask that question to clients, I really do say, like, what do you want it to look like? Because I have no
Yeah.
idea what the answer is. But um, it's getting really clear and specific on what kind of energy or vibe do you want in your home? Like, when you walk in the front door at the end of a long day, what do you want to feel when you walk into your home? When you and your partner sit down to have dinner together, or talk about the day after a long day. Like, what do you want the dynamics to be between the two of you? When you think about crafting your perfect day from the second you wake up to the second you lay your head down to go to bed at night, what do you want that day to look like? What are the things that would excite you, that would create an internal drive and a fire that gets you excited about what's next? What are the things you don't want to be doing and don't want to be giving your time and energy to? Because those are clear indicators. I always say that complaints are a latent vision. So, what are the things that you're complaining about or unhappy with?
A complaint is a what?
A latent vision.
A latent vision.
Yep. So, the opposite of what you're complaining about is likely what you actually want. And so, even getting clear, like the vision is obviously what you want, not what you don't want. But if you have complaints that come up frequently or frustrations, those things reveal, with the right questions and the right prodding, those things can reveal what you actually do want in your life.
So, okay, give me another frequently asked questions you might get.
Oh gosh. How do I deal with the overbearing feeling from extended family, friends, the media, like the outside chatter?
And
And the response is that
yeah, what's the answer?
So for that, it comes down to a couple of things typically. Again, how do you want to engage with those outside influences? I'm going to say it again. What's the vision? What's the vision for? Because like a vision is not macro. Visions can be micro. So you can have a vision specific to something like, this is my vision for my relationship with my in-laws, and this is my vision for my relationship with the media. But having a clear understanding of what you want that to look like, and being clear on where you might be struggling with something like boundaries or time management or people pleasing. Those are some really common things that come up that tend to catch people and make those external influences, sort of amplifies the external noise and external voices. So those are some things that we would look at as like, do you have a tendency to people please, and why? And what would happen if you stopped?
That's where I would like, if you and I were, talking, that's the type of stuff I want to hear. And why I say that is like that, like people pleasing. Okay. So we've all heard vision. I say this a lot with leadership coaches. Like when I'm in front of them, I'm like, look, if you say I help you grow your vision. I help you to develop values. I help you to, it's like the average person's going to hear that even, and go, I hear you. I should have a vision. I should have value.
Right.
But when you say people please, I can relate. And that's what we're talking about finding those, like how do they say it in their head? I don't I don't know that every person walks around. I do sometimes, I'll admit it. So when I'm saying this, I think it's a smaller niche of people that walk around and say, what's the vision for my life?
Yeah.
But I think they do know some of what they don't want. I loved that you said that. What do you not want? Like, what do you want to stop doing? What's not working in your life? That's often, sometimes more powerful to ask than what's working. But I love that you said people pleasing. Give me like 3 other granular things that these people end up kind of being held hostage into doing, like people pleasing, that come up.
Yeah, so people pleasing, this might tie into it, but feeling like everyone sees you as the solution to their problem. because of your access, your resources, your financial situation, whatever. So yeah, so people expecting you to solve their problems for them through your resources. And then I would say a feeling of overwhelm, like feeling overwhelmed by the demands on your time or the athlete's time, feeling overwhelmed by the scrutiny, feeling overwhelmed by other people's opinions of what you should or should not be doing. Yeah.
I love all of that. Those are great talking points. And, even when you were working just generally with, Gina's audience, overwhelm, demand, having to be the solutions. Those are all scalable human problems that, you know, you can edit for every environment,
Mm-hmm.
and that you're like connecting with that person's humanness. Just my opinion, but
Yeah.
I really I like power words like that. And vision for me, I say it all the time. So like, hear me clearly. I'm not like I know it's a fairy word. I sometimes say like, look, when I'm talking about your vision, I'm talking about like, is this the life that you wanted to show up at? Like, would this be the life when you were a kid? If you snap your fingers, this is what it looks like.
Right.
You know, what's missing? So again, you'll do with my, take it with a grain of salt. But
No, I think I think it's one of those, like, I correlate that to the concept of like meet them where they're at, right? Like
yes,
I speak in vision because that's my
yes,
vernacular, but it's
yes,
like if I were going to a contractor and I was like, "Hey, what's your vision for your life?" They'd probably be like,
yes,
"I don't know, like running a bulldozer, having a
yes,
beer tonight, like I don't know."
yes.
Um, so yeah, like just being, I think that's a great awareness. Is just like being aware of how my vocabulary might influence positively or negatively the outcome.
Well, and to your point, like I finally have my fairy tale dream life, and I realize it's nothing like what I thought it was going to be,
Yeah.
and so that it's yeah, we could talk about this all day. So finally, in the core offerings, one of the most challenging things that coaches have is to define their core offerings. This is the what you do. While it might seem straightforward, it's easy to miss the mark, and I see it all the time. A strong core offering should deliver a meaningful and measurable result. It's why I'm always asking people like, what's the transformation?
Hmm.
I know if I buy a cup of coffee, the transformation I'm about to have. I go
Right.
from having no personality to having some personality. Um, but is it a measurable result? So, you know, um, if it's not a measurable result, there are still products out there that aren't a measurable result. But if I can tie it as close as possible to something that I can measure, it's even better. Is it easy to explain, understand, and purchase? Meaning, are my offerings clear? Um, is my target audience specific? It's not just for anybody. So, what is really cool to know about your offering is, to go back to people pleasing. People pleasing is something we can all relate to,
Hmm.
but when you're in the athlete ecosystem, people pleasing takes on a whole new meaning for them. So
Right.
it when you can take something that feels general and niche it down just by, are you in the athlete ecosystem? Are you is your spouse, brother, sister, um, you know, uh, son, daughter, in this world, you're their support system. Um, and you suddenly have this posse of people that wants you to solve all their problems. So like that takes it from, are you just a mom at home who has 4 kids hanging on her leg, or a dad who comes home and feels like he has to this or that, to now you're real specific. So we want to be really specific. We want it to be easy to explain, understand, and purchase. And then we want to repel people that aren't a fit. So I shouldn't stumble upon your coaching problem and think it's for me, coaching offering, and think it's for me. I should be able to know, like, oh, I see, wow, that's really interesting, but it's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard it said, and you've probably heard this said before too, great marketing attracts a very specific person and repels a very specific person, and that's what makes it great.
Right.
And that's the difference between, like, back in the day when Apple and Microsoft were having their big battles, and now they sort of blend a little bit more. But so where'd we go? Meaningful result. So how to increase the value of your offering. So I stole this from Alex Hormozi, but I use it all the time in my thinking. Does it help the client achieve their ideal outcome? Is the likelihood of success clear and believable? Can you shorten the time needed to reach their goal? And can you reduce the effort and sacrifice required for them to succeed? So anytime you have an offering, we want to know, number one, like, is this thing going to achieve my desired outcome? And what's the likelihood?
Mm-hmm.
So people will be more apt, to go with the person that they think is going to be able to take them from here to there.
So how do you work with clients when it's like, so for me, like, one of my core things is, like, I'm not the solution to I'm going to help you,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm the solution to your problem in the sense that I can be a trusted advisor. I can walk alongside you, but I'm not your guru. Like, I'm not going to come in and tell you how to solve your life.
Yeah.
And like, because we've actually talked about this quite a bit in the coaching space. Like, if a client's like, well, I'm not getting results, like, I'm going to be the person who's going to ask you, okay, how are you getting in your own way of those results? Like, are you doing the things you're talking about? So I'm just curious, like, when you work with coaches, especially where it's like, all I can do is show up and give you my best, you have to be the person who takes the action in your own life. How do you help them in this space, I guess?
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, I'm going to reread that first question. Does it help them achieve their ideal outcome? And it just has to help them achieve their ideal outcome. Like, I've got to be able to, either through coaching or consulting or a physical product or whatever, I have to know their ideal outcome well enough, and then have enough resources, knowledge, experience, guidance to get them there. So, a personal trainer, as an example, if I'm, 86 pounds overweight, might say, like, look, this isn't going to happen tomorrow, but if you do this consistently, if we go through this activity consistently, you give me your all, I'll give you my all. We are going to get you where you want to go. That's us upping the likelihood of success. Now, here's the deal. It might take you years. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. It might take you years to get there on your own. And I've seen some people in this ecosystem never feel like they had a friend the entire time. They couldn't wait for their husband or wife to retire. I've seen marriages wrecked. We're going to help you to feel good in your own skin faster, maybe shave years of misery off your life. And it's not going to be as hard as you think. So I'm just going down the line of those 4 questions, right? So can I reduce the effort, sacrifice? This is going to be a lot less painful than you think, but I need you to bear with me. I need you to stay with me for at least 90 days. If you're not getting results by then, but I need you. And within 90 days, if you do the things, here's my promise. As long as I can do that. But as the likelihood that we can solve their problem goes up, the value goes up. So if I know without a doubt, one session with Laura is going to change my life completely. I mean, obviously that's not a thing, but I'm just saying, then then my value goes up, right? It's like going to the best knee doctor, right? So it's like, am I going to go to the guy who's brand new? He hasn't done a knee yet because he's, running a half off discount, or am I going to go to the guy that costs most? And so, the likelihood of success is, does she understand my problem?
Right. Yeah. I guess as you were talking, I was like, okay, so positioning myself like my coaching is the tool, but it's the tool that fits the problem you're trying to solve, right? Like
That's
it's the
right.
equivalent of I'm not giving you a spatula to screw in a light bulb,
That's
right?
right.
Like that's not going to get you there.
Yeah.
But if I give you a spatula and you're trying to flip pancakes, you have what you need to solve
Yeah.
the problem.
The better I know you understand me, the more likely I'm going to be. So that's why we say like core questions is a really big deal,
Mm-hmm.
because if in the first 5 minutes of our phone call you say to me, Chris, I've been in the athlete ecosystem for a long time. It's my expertise, and I have seen a ton, of different, I mean, I'm being super like arbitrary here, but like, I've seen so many people come into this, their family members just have no idea. It's like they're like a deer in headlights. I mean, and now you're, on the back burner. And, I'm here to tell you, you could have a great life, make a ton of impact, feel incredibly fulfilled if we just start to move you into, a different direction. And, I have a lot of resources to help do this. And there's a process to it as we walk through it. I'll get to know you a little bit better and what you're looking for, your dreams. You'll get to know, my resources a little bit better. Um, and this could be a great ride for you. So
Mm-hmm.
like if I know that where I'm at, how I'm feeling, and kind of what I'm looking to do, then that's in the rapport building piece, right? And so
Right.
but that's it. So there is something to be said for the last part, and I know you got to go in a minute here. So like this value proposition activity is worthwhile. The value proposition is a concise statement outlining exactly what clients will gain from your offer and how it saves them time, money, and effort. Use this formula to create a powerful value statement. So basically, it goes like, I help target audience to achieve desired outcome in time frame without sacrificing common or similar outcome or challenge. Again, I took that almost directly from Alex Hormozi, but here's what mine is for Elevate. So because it's real simple. We help coaches, consultants, and public speakers to create months of short form video content in just 2 days without the hassle of shooting it and editing it on their own. So when you take a look at that, it's super specific. Like I Elevate, I'm just using that as an example because that's what this is for. It's only for coaches, consultants, and public speakers. We
Mm-hmm.
create months of short form content. That's what we do. We do it in just 2 days, and there's no hassle, of you shooting and editing on your own. So like, it's a real clear offering.
Mm-hmm.
The most clear offering I've ever made. And even in the salon space, we did, I guess we had a pretty clear one. My partner ran a $10 million salon business. And so we sold the exact strategies that, this owner uses to do $10 million multiple location hair salons. But that one was also pretty good. It sold a pretty lot.
Yeah.
But so when you can kind of dial it down into that kind of a form and that kind of a sentence, it's like, okay, I help, um, support spouses, family members, wives of professional athletes to, well, you fill in the blanks here.
Yeah, so I would say shitty first draft. I help the professional athlete ecosystem achieve autonomy and independent legacy creation in a year.
Okay. And the time, I mean, this is obviously something that happens over time. So, if it's a big enough cure, then the time, if somebody has, I don't recommend it, but if somebody has aggressive cancer, they're going to go get chemotherapy, right? Like
Right.
if they tell me it's going to be 8 months, it's going to be 8 months of hell, it is what it is, but the cure would be worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're giving them their life back,
So I guess I would look at this as so if I were just selling the master class, let's focus on that.
yeah,
So I help the professional athlete ecosystem to achieve a clear vision, a clear picture of their 2025 ambitions, goals, and desired outcomes in 3 hours without sacrificing travel or, without leaving, and you don't even have to leave the
You
comfort of
don't
your
even
own
have
home.
to leave your house, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Without even putting on pants.
yeah. And there's a part of me that wants to say, like, and I think there's probably a better word for athlete ecosystem, meaning if I'm new to that environment, I may have never heard the term.
Mhm.
So what do you think they call themselves?
So this is the problem. Like in some
Mhm.
cases, since I'm not talking specifically about wives and girlfriends,
Yeah.
because sometimes they do call them WAGs, wives and girlfriends of wives and girlfriends in sport or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so but I've also heard some women say, like, I don't call myself a WAG because to me, that's the person who's like dripping in Prada and going to Pilates class and drinking Starbucks all day. She's not actually doing anything. Like,
Yeah.
so not all of them would align with that. They might know the acronym, but again, that's very specific to wives and girlfriends. In fact, I had not heard, like, I thought I created the athlete ecosystem terminology because I've
Okay.
been using it and people are like, oh, that's an interesting way of thinking about that. And then I heard it on the NFL webinar that I was on last night and I was like, either you stole that from me or you guys agree as well.
Yeah.
So they talk about it, but yeah, it could be, I don't know. I don't know how they would like mother of an athlete, but they
Yeah.
also to them it's
I mean, what
normal.
about just families? What
Yeah,
about?
families of athletes,
Yeah.
personal support system of an
Yeah.
athlete.
The other part about that was, and I forget the language you use now because I was to deal with, learn to navigate, solve, break through the common challenges that come along with being, introduced to this environment, like people pleasing, the overwhelm that can come with it, the demand. Like I would name some of those problems that you help people, and I didn't just articulate that well,
Mhm.
but deal with the overwhelming demand that comes along with, being the support network of a professional athlete. Um, uh, and have their own life and legacy as well, and leave their own footprint. Um, I'm sure there's something better than what I'm saying, but just kind of moving towards that direction, like saying the problem, uh, if you can't say an exact solution because it's not an exact, it's for everybody, it's a little bit different, but we're helping them navigate this overwhelming life change that comes along with now being in the spotlight
Yeah.
and in the shadows at the same time.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the other piece is like, again, like if you think about any company, right? You're going to have some people who have kids, some people who don't have kids.
Yep.
So, like some of these challenges might not come up when they first get into the lifestyle. They're like, oh, I knew how to do it when it was just the two of us, but now that we have kids, it's a different dynamic. Or, now I knew how to do it when he was in college, but now it was fine when we were just dating, but now that we're married, things are different. So it's like the that's where I come up, and I even like thinking about the masterclass, like that really was just going to be like a get clear on what you want to create in 2025. So that's
Mhm.
kind of where I was like, I didn't, but you're right. Like, how do you talk about those pain points? And maybe that means I need to change the focus of the masterclass because I haven't created the sales page or started promoting it yet. So I can still do that.
Mhm, mhm. Well, when you do, I'm always happy to give feedback. Mine isn't going to be as grammarly as yours is. Mine will be more on context. I
Fair enough. Sorry about that. That's
Oh
what's
no, it's
professional.
always helpful. I'll tell you a quick story before we get off. When I first got a corporate job, I was given the job. I had no qualifications for it, but I think my personality got me the job. But day 2, I sent out an email to all of our distributors. The director of sales, the vice president of sales, comes walking to my office. He closes the door behind me. He goes, "Hey, Chris, buddy, if you're going to send an email to all of our distributors, could you please at least have somebody proofread it?" So that was my introduction to corporate. And it was, I didn't love corporate, but I did fine in corporate. I excelled, but I didn't like it. So I left. But long and short of it, that's I was born with this brain that sees things backwards. So
No, totally get it. My grandmother, my great grandmother were both English teachers. And so it was, metaphorically for the most part, beaten into me from a young age.
One of my really good friends and business partners' mother was an English teacher, and I often get the corrections from him. So, but anyway, I'm happy to help any way I can. And
Awesome.
I hope this was fun for you and you got something out of it. And
Yeah, definitely. I have a page and a half of notes, so and then the worksheet to go back to as well. So I will definitely do some work on that, and yeah, I'm excited to see what I can create.
Yeah, if you do fill that core, I'd love to glance at what you got, just even from a learning perspective for me. So
Okay.
that'd be cool. So
Awesome. Yeah, happy to share it with you.
cool. All right, Laura, thanks for I know we went over, but I appreciate your time today. This was fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was great seeing you, Chris.
You too.
Bye.
See ya.